This movie was based on The Who's rock opera of the same name, which came out in the mid 1970s. Probably one of the most important rock operas they ever did. He did several. The idea with Quadrophenia basically talked about an individual who felt left out about the degradation of Britain in the mid 1960s. He was mentally ill. According to Pete Townsend, the main character in Quadrophenia was bipolar and schizophrenic. He basically was involved in mod culture and with no direction, suffering through mental illness and a spiritual awakening at the same time. Now, Quadrophenia touches some of those bases of the album, and it was a very controversial movie for its time because a lot of people thought it couldn't be made, but it was made as much as the album as could be done. Now, Quadrophenia is a 79 British drama film, loosely based on The Who's rock opera of the same name. Well, yes and no. It was directed by Frank Rodham in his feature directing debut. Unlike the adaptation of Tommy, Quadrophenia is not a musical film, and the band does not appear live in the film. Now, set in London 64, a time when the working class youth broadly aligned themselves with one or two factions, which frequently fought each other. The mods wore sharp suits, listened to current pop and soul music, took amphetamines, and rode scooters. Rockers rode powerful British motorcycles, such as Triumph and BSA, wore black leather jackets, and listened to 1950s rock and roll, and would also get into brawls in Brighton and other communities in Britain over their individual cults. Now, the film stars the great Phil Dowling as Jimmy, a young mod who escapes from his dead-end job as a mailroom boy by dancing, partying, taking amphetamines, riding a scooter, and brawling with rockers. After he and his friends participate in a huge brawl with the rockers at the seaside town of Brighton, he is arrested and his life starts to spiral out of control. He loses his love interest, Leslie Ash, gets kicked out of his house by his parents, and discovers that his idol, the popular successful mod nicknamed Ace Face, played by Sting, is actually a bellboy at the hotel. Thus the line, "Bellboy, bellboy." Now, again, based on Quadrophenia by The Who, with a screenplay by Dave Humphries, Frank Rodham, Martin Selman, of course, Pete Townsend, produced by Roy Baird and Bill Kerbishley, cinematography by Brian DeFano, and music by The Who and, of course, other artists. Now, the production company was The Who Films Limited and Polytel Films, the record label, and Kerbishley Baird Enterprises. Distributed by Brent Walker Films, it was a box office bomb in many locations. It has premiered the 16th of August, 79, cost £2 million, but didn't take back his money. But, of course, it made a ton of money on DVD and video. Now, 2 hours, there's a lot going on, so we're going to cover this as best we can. Now, the whole plot, if you listen to Quadrophenia, you pretty well know the basic plot that's going on. Now, in 64, young London mod Jimmy Cooper, disillusioned with his parents and adult job as a post-room boy in an advertising firm, vents his teenage angst by taking, again, amphetamines, partying, riding scooters, and brawling with rockers, accompanied by his close mod friends Dave, Chalky, and Spider. An attack by hostile rockers on Spider leads to a retaliatory attack on Jimmy's childhood friend Kevin, one of the rival rockers. Jimmy initially participates, but on realizing the victim is Kevin, he berates the other attackers but does not stop them, instead riding away on his scooter, revving his engine loudly in frustration. Now, there's numerous scenes in the first half an hour and 40 minutes of the show what gives you the basis of what was going on. He has a bad relationship with his parents, especially his father. He's got he's bored by his job. He's obsessed with women. His whole room is dedicated to The Who and the naked women and different signs of, Brighton brawls, like, the newspaper clippings. Now, a planned bank holiday weekend away provides the excuse for rivalry between mods and rockers to escalate. As both groups descend on the seaside town of Brighton, Jimmy plans to be noticed as a face and hints to Steph, a girl whom he has a crush, they would like her to ride with him, but she confirms plans to ride instead with Pete, an older, well-heeled mod. Now, prepared for the weekend, the pals try to buy some recreational drugs from London gangster Harry North, but are cheated with fake bills. After vandalizing the drug dealer's car, in retaliation, he desperately rob a pharmacy, finding a large quantity of their favorite blues. Now, after an early morning group ride from London to the south coast, the French gather on the seafront, where Jimmy first sees a flamboyant scooter ride. Now, this is a very interesting scene on the DVD commentary. It shows how it was done, where the Phil Daniels, the stuntman, jumps off, and Daniels appears almost a half second after literally jumps off. It's very, very well done. But it shows that Jimmy is acting out in very, very many bipolar ways. Dangerous moments, dangerous decisions, and all that. Now, uh, now after again diving the audience, Jimmy is ejected by bouncers. Steph's escort leaves with the American girl, and once again, Jimmy tries to get with Steph, this time for the night, but she's arranged accommodations with a female friend. Now, the lads spend the night sleeping rough, meet up in a cafe the following morning, they proceed along the promenade, where a series of running battles ensues. We are the mods, we are the mods, we are the mods. As the police corner the rioters, Jimmy escapes down an alleyway with Steph, and they have very, very, what do you call, angry sex. When the pair emerge, they find themselves amidst a melee. Just as police are detaining rioters, Jimmy is arrested and detained with the volatile Ace face. When fined a hefty $75, 75 pounds, equivalent to 1,600 pounds in 2021, Ace face mocks the magistrate by offering to pay in a spot with a check, impressing the fellow mods with his presumed wealth. Back in London, Jimmy becomes severely depressed because it comes across that he has been evicted. His mother throws him out after finding a stash of pills. He then leaves the job, spends his severance package on more pills, and learns that Steph is now with his friend's Dave's girlfriend. After briefly fighting with Dave, the following morning rejection is confirmed by Steph, and his beloved Lambretta scooter is damaged in a crash involving a Royal Mail parcel van. Jimmy takes a train back to Brighton, taking increasing levels of pills and becoming more emotionally unstable. Because Steph tells him it was just a lark, and his whole community of support is falling apart, and it's ironically the corporate Royal Mail truck knocks off his scooter. A very, very sad scene. Now, lonely, unsure what to do with himself, he revisits the scenes of the riots, his encounter with Steph. Then Jimmy horrifyingly discovers that his idol, Ace Face, has a menial job as a bellboy at a Grand Brighton hotel. Jimmy eventually steals Ace's Vespa scooter and heads to Beachy Head, riding close to the cliff. For a time, he appears to be having an enjoyable ride in the sunshine, but then he stops and glares miserably at the sea. Finally, the scooter is seen crashing over the cliff top, which is where the film began, with Jimmy walking back against the sunset backdrop. This is not repeated. So we don't know if it's basically he survived or committed suicide. I think he survived, because he's pretty well decided he can't live this life anymore. Now, ironically, Phil Daniels' character, Johnny Linden, of course known as Johnny Rotten, Sex Pistols, did screen test for the role of Jimmy. Distributors of the film refused to insure him for the part, and he was replaced again by Phil Daniels. Sting playing the Ace face. Young Ray Winston plays Kevin, Jimmy's friend, which a very interesting scene at the first, which includes full frontal male nudity, which has to be seen for the belief. I don't want to give it away, but it's a British level of young, what they call young actors that somehow have gone to great success in the UK. Now, most of the cast were reunited after 28 years at the Earl's Court in September 2007 as part of the Quadrophenia reunion at the London Film and Comic Con run by quadcon.co.uk. Subsequently, the cast agreed to be part of the Quadrophenia convention in Brighton in 2009. Now, the soundtrack album to this film of the same name, which refers to the 73 rock opera Quadrophenia, was initially released on Polydor Records in 79 as a cassette and LP and was re-released as a compact disc in 93 and 01. The album was dedicated to Peter Meaden, a prominent mod and first manager of The who had died a year before the album's release, as did Kate Boone. Now, the album contains 10 of the 17 tracks from the original rock opera Quadrophenia, as not all the tracks are used in the film. These are different mixes from those that appear on the album, as they were remixed in 79 by John Entwistle, the bassist for the Who. The most notable difference is the track The Real Me, used for the title sequence of the film, which features a different bass track, more prominent vocals, and a more definite ending. Most of the tracks are also edited to be slightly shorter. The soundtrack also includes 3 tracks by The Who that did not appear on the 73 album. I think some of their old singles. So I'm a huge fan of The Who, and I know most Who fans saw this movie as a good interpretation of what Quadrophenia was trying to say. Now, several references to The Who appear through the film as Easter eggs. including an anachronistic inclusion of a repackaged Who album that was not available at the time, a clip of the band performing Anyway, Anyhow, Anywhere in the TV series Ready, Steady, Go, where Jimmy is playing along, air drums, pictures of the band and a maximum R&B poster in Jimmy's bedroom, and the inclusion of My Generation to a party, a gate crashing scene. The film was almost canceled when Keith Moon, the drummer for The Who, died, but in words of Rodham, the producers Roy Baird and Bill Curbishley held together and the film was made. Only one scene in the film was shot in the studio, all others were on location. Beachy Head, where Jimmy considered suicide at the end of the film, was the location of a real-life suicide that supposedly influenced the film's ending. The stunt coordinators underestimated the distance that the scooter would fly through the air after being driven off Beachy Head. Frank Rodham, who shot the scene from a helicopter, was almost hit. Now, Jeff Dexter, we talked about the scene before, a club dancer and disc jockey fixture in the 60s London music scene, was a DJ in the club scenes, and was the uncredited choreographer of 500 extras for the ballroom and club scenes. He also choreographed Sting's feet in his dance close-ups. Dexter also managed the popular rock band America. Now, black actor Trevor Laird, who played Ferdy, was scripted to appear in a party scene kissing and having sex with a white girl, but was excluded from the scene by associate producer John Peveril due to concerns that would cause problems with distributors in South Africa and the southern states. Toya Wilcox has said that the cast members discussed going on strike about the incident. Now, the film had its premiere at the Plaza Cinema in London on August 16, 1979. It opened to the public the following day and grossed £36,000 in its opening week from 4 cinemas in London, placing second behind Moonraker, the James Bond movie, at the London box office. But it never really caught on in North America or internationally. Now, Janet Maslin, reviewing the film in the New York Times, 1979, called it gritty and ragged and sometimes quite beautiful, creating a slice-of-life movie that feels tremendously authentic in the sentiments as well as the details. Now, critic Mac Brunson from Creative Loafing stated that the film managed to build quintessentially British and irrefutably universal, giving out 3.5 stars out of 4. Now, Rotten Tomatoes collected reviews for 14 critics and gave Quadrophenia, get this, 100% rating. The New York Times has placed the film also on its best 1,000 movies ever list. I would figure it's top 300 in my opinion of all time because it's a slice of life of Britain involving the second best band in UK history, The Who, behind the Beatles. It's nothing but good things. Now, Universal Pictures Home Entertainment first released the film on DVD in 1999 with an 8-minute montage featurette. Unfortunately, used a VHS print, resulting in a much lower quality video than expected. Following this in the US was a special edition by our good friends at Rhino, which included a remastered letterbox widescreen transfer, a commentary, several interviews, galleries, and a quiz. However, it was a shorter cut to film with several minutes of footage missing. Now, Rhino Home Video released the film on DVD again on 25th of September 2001. However, on 7th of August 2006, Universal approved on original DVD with a Region 2 2-disc special edition. The film was digitally remastered, including a new commentary by Frank Rodham, Phil Daniels, and Leslie Ash. Disc 2 features an hour-long documentary and a featurette with Rodham discussing locations. Unlike their previous DVD, it was a complete longer version, and it was mounted to the correct aspect ratio. The Criterion Collection released a special edition version of the movie in 2012 on both the DVD and Blu-ray formats, and I recommend that version if you're going to pick it up. Now, if you've never heard about The Who, this is not a way to introduce you to The Who because it's basically taking the music of The Who. But the Quadrophenia album is one of the first major rock operas to talk about mental illness as a driving force for creativity. Because Jimmy was very creative the way he decorated his room, decorated his scooter, how he dealt with other people. He was not only a leader, he was trying to be the top mod in his family group. And his family was the fellow mods. And that's why it was hard on him when everything broke down. He had like a nervous breakdown, but caused by his mental illness. I give this movie 4 stars out of 4. Can't be missed. If you love the horrible ooh, it's your movie.